Oh.
Yeah, I know it kind of sounds like some people who may be listening, it may sound like we're un-American, like we're commies or something, but that's not true. Our government are commies. They're Bolsheviks. And you don't need to look any further than the Communist Manifesto. You don't need to look any further than the policies implemented the last 10 years, or the last 30 years, the last 100 years. And as I said, if it looks like a Zionist and it smells like a Zionist, it is a central banker. And central banks have caused every boom, every bust. They fund both sides of every war. And so we're not un-American. And I say God bless Americans.
And welcome to the Jim Freeland Show here at the Oracle Broadcast Network. Welcome to everybody. You can find the Jim Freeland Show actually at againstthewall.info. The chat room is at againstthewall.info. Those of you who have grown accustomed to watching the Jim Freeland Show on video, uno momento, por favor. I'll have it up and going right away. Call-in number today. I think we still have Kevin on the line from the last show. My guest today for the Jim Freeland Show is JG Vibes. His website is aotmr.com. And we're going to continue on with some enlightening and insightful and, from the soul sort of talk. I noticed, I knew in my heart after just hearing you say, do we really need to be ruled, that you would be on board with me on the medical marijuana or medical cannabis, medicine, medicinally, recreationally. I don't think it really matters. It's the prohibition, in my book, that is causing the problems in America, with drugs. It's the classification, and the prohibition that causes the violence. And I want to see an end to that. I want to see an end to my brothers and sisters being labeled criminals or delinquents. I want to see an end to the violence that's being committed to my sons and daughters, over a plan. And not only just that, even the pharmaceutical drugs. Yeah, meth is horrible. I had a horrible meth problem for several years. It took being kidnapped, beaten almost to death, rolled up in a sheet to quit. But it would.
What I wonder about that meth and stuff, though, is if cocaine was legal, right? If cocaine was never made illegal, I wonder if crack and meth would have even ever been invented.
Probably
because
not.
I think that stuff was invented because people couldn't get their hands on coke, right? And then that stuff ended up being 10 times worse.
Yeah, and then they pump it into the streets, and with the
without a doubt.
Well, and it's not just the violence committed by gangsters and thugs. It's the violence committed by the state on us over it. Violence begets violence. Everything can't state. The only thing state has is violence, and if that's where we have evolved as a species, is violence is the answer to everything. The only way, compliance, violence, punishment. Then obviously, it's not our generation that's going to see the change, man. And we have to do the right thing, and that is to teach our children, right, man?
Oh yeah, definitely. We need to lay down a solid foundation of ideas for the next generation, and we need to teach the next generation what it's like to be free. Through our action, through negotiating with them instead of yelling at them and trying to mold them into what you want. And what you were talking earlier about prohibition and about it doesn't matter even if it didn't have medical value, it shouldn't be illegal. And I completely agree with you there. And I think that kind of goes to a little bit of a deeper issue about inanimate objects being banned, because I think that that's something that throughout history that these control freaks, whoever they have been, in earlier parts of history, it was mostly religious-based. So they would be able to throw people in dungeons for possessing any kind of sacrilegious material or anything like that. So, and then things got more free in America, and then they had to find alcohol. And then once the alcohol prohibition ended, if you look at what the drug enforcement agents in America were saying, like Harry J. Anslinger and people like that, they were saying straight up, we need a new object to replace alcohol that we can justify these massive bureaucracies for, and that we can, I've heard some activists call the drug war a Swiss Army knife for cops, as far as if they want to get in your house,
yeah, man, it's free reign, man. You know what I mean? It's like automatic, and now they've done away with probable cause, pretty much. They just say drug war, suspected drug war. They come in and find anything. They can find aloe vera drying in your closet.
Well, they can even look into your power records now and your phone records and everything without probable cause to see if you're suspected of, growing.
Yeah.
But with my last charge, I was driving to work at night, and I got pulled over for not having my emissions done. I guess they sent me something in the mail, and I didn't get it because I had just moved. So was supposed to get the emissions done on my car, but it wasn't done. So they pulled me over. Car didn't smell like weed or anything. I wasn't driving crazy. I acted completely normal. But because of the fact that I had a prior marijuana conviction on my record on his little computer when he pulled me over, right away he has an attitude with me, and he tries to get me out of the car. And I say, why? Am I being detained? I ask him all the questions that they say you're supposed to ask on the YouTube videos and stuff, And he freaked out and ripped me out the window. And he had 4 other cops there with tasers and stuff. So, there's no probable cause. There's no Fourth Amendment. It's all out the window. And then they tried to say that I resisted arrest on top of that. So I totally had to plea down and just take the probation and get through with it. Because then my judge was an 80-year-old ex-cop. So, yeah, there's no... And all that stuff that they say that we have to protect ourselves, it's not there. It doesn't matter, Like you were saying about the Constitution earlier, I mean, the ideas that are embodied in the Constitution are wonderful ideas. But if these clowns can just make an amendment to make inanimate objects illegal and then, 15 years later have to totally amend that, that doesn't really seem like a binding document to me,
Nope. Well, it hasn't been used. The thing of it, my view of it is like this. If it hasn't really helped me so far, why am I going to count on it to help me in the future? I mean, they've used it they've used it to essentially turn me into a slave in my own country. I can't even leave the United States now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, the ideas embodied in it are great, and a lot of them we should totally, take with us into the future. But I think the idea that there's a piece of paper that's going to hold back oppression, it doesn't seem to be what has happened so far, especially if they could keep on rewriting it,
Yeah, absolutely. They can rewrite it. What good is it if they can? I mean, to them, in their view, in their eyes.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it, and I think a lot of people point to that, and the Supreme Court's totally corrupt, and they can change all this at a whim. So it's if you can rewrite the rules as you go, and what are we doing here?
Yeah. And
everybody, in 1984, where it was nobody remembered what it was like before the change of power or whatever, or before things got real bad, and that's kind of how it is today. Nobody remembers Prohibition.
No, and and when we talk about do we really need a government? Or do we, the things that we talk about like natural law, people just, the public at large thinks I'm talking about, going out there and ripping up all the stop signs and, you know what I mean? Taking down all the one-way signs and setting buildings on fire. No, that's not what we're talking about, but a large, bloated, gigantic, centralized federal government is not working for us. And even in some cases, our big, giant, bloated state governments aren't working for us. And we do have other forms. We have our local communities, our local town governments, and even county governments. I mean, you're more apt to be heard and represented by people who live in your community,
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I think that in these situations, a lot of people think that it is the government that puts these one-way signs up and does all this, but no, it's the community and the people agreeing on things. The government is just the supervisor that sits there, on his lazy behind and just, points his finger and tells us what to do. But, I mean, think about it this way. A lot of people, if you would ask, who defines the English language, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people would say that, oh, well, the dictionary does. And at face value, that may seem correct. But what if Merriam-Webster's put out an edition tomorrow that said that the word up meant to walk towards the floor? Would everybody just say, oh, man, had it wrong all along?
Yeah, oops. Wow, was I wrong?
Yeah, so, I mean, people would say, oh, no, this is screwed up here because everybody in our community has agreed that this is the way it is. Just because the authority has documented it the wrong way doesn't mean, that that's the way it is. And that may seem like a little bit of a stretch, but it kind of shows you that just because there is an authority of something, a so-called authority that puts these rules down, does not mean that those rules came from that authority. And it doesn't mean that we need that authority to have those rules.
Absolutely. I mean, people just think, well, people assume, and actually we do it too, maybe not you, but I do occasionally, just assume that everybody but you, is an idiot and can't be trusted to not drive 100 miles an hour down a road filled with children and pets. I'm just saying that people don't give themselves any credit, or you know what I'm saying? We're not what we've been made out to be by the colleges and universities, a cancer on the planet. That's not what we were meant to be, and that's not what we are at heart as a species. We've been horribly perverted and badly mismanaged.
Yeah, and I think that people have problems coming to terms with the idea that what's going on right now is not cool, it's not natural, it's not right. So everybody's just like, oh, well, that's human nature, that's the way it's supposed to be, so I'm just going to close my eyes and go along with the flow. And when they have that kind of perception of human nature, they think that everybody around them is a total maniac. And then when they turn on the news, they're totally, reconfirmed of that. But on the mainstream news, all you hear about is how your neighbor's out to kill you. You don't hear about the government poisoning the food or killing millions of people overseas or throwing your son or daughter in a cage for smoking a plant,
Exactly. And then, or, giving them autism or it's just a whole plethora of things they do to us. If people were to just sit down and objectively look, not like, jumping in front of a car and then screaming, that you got hit by a car or, anything like that, but just sit down and objectively look at not just what state has done to you over your life, the course of your life, whether it was through taxes or regulations or some sort of compliance, or and sit back and look at what it could do to you. Think about it for a minute. Think about how horribly bad things could go wrong for you because because of the violence, because of the compliance, because of where the authority. It's a system. It's a giant bureaucracy. It's not even humans. Humans just get sucked into it and get addicted to the crack that dribbles out of it. It's a bureaucracy that just keeps on turning. It was created maybe by humans scientifically, but it's a beast that's been set loose that's really unstoppable. This giant bureaucracy, it doesn't matter what human you put in it. You know, the fines will still go out. You'll still get the pink slips in the mail. Humans are all interchangeable is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even if everybody, all of the elites, and everybody in all of these positions disappeared today, all of the ideas that allowed them to, you know, pretty much take ownership over other people would still exist, and other people would fill that void. This is why you hear everybody talk about the vacuum of power that would come if a government were to disappear, and that is true.
And it would be filled,
but that's why you need to overcome the paradigm, the ideas. That's the real target.
Well, yeah, and we owe it. No, and we owe it. I mean, if there is no easy button where there's an epic battle where, you know, dark versus light, where good battles evil, then we, even though it may seem fruitless and there's no immediate reward, have to plant the seed for tomorrow, man. It doesn't matter that you're not going to be able to see it fruit. You owe it. I mean, it's your duty to the planet, to the species, to plant the seed, man.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think that whole idea of needing immediate results and immediate gratification is really beaten into our heads in school, man. Like you know, with the whole way that the testing is set up and just the, if you've ever read any of John Taylor Gatto's work and some of the stuff he says about the underlying things that you're taught in school, I forget what the actual phrase was that he used, but it was basically like, you know, you learn compliance, you learn obedience, you learn that, you know, everything is decided by someone in authority. And we carry all of these idiosyncrasies from school, I think. And one of them is definitely this sense of, oh, if I can't fix it overnight and it's a long-term project, then why am I even getting involved, you know? And I think that definitely has a lot to do with, you know how in school, like, if the teacher was saying something that was completely retarded and you wanted to raise your hand and argue, everybody would look at you like, why are you doing this? Why are you wasting our time here? We just all want to just drone off here and not pay any attention and just shake our heads and just learn what we need to learn for the test. Why are you getting all involved? And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you're not even allowed to have open discussion. Try disagreeing with a college professor. I mean, disagreeing logically with an open discussion, not hostile or anything like that, and they will immediately become hostile and shut you up and tell you this is not part of the curriculum, it's not on your syllabus, you know, if you don't like it, get out.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
JG, you're absolutely right, just in the comment about the kids looking at you, because I was that kid. I was that kid that always asked questions and people would roll their eyes and say, Joel, why are you doing this? But you know what? That teaches critical thinking, and they don't want that to happen anymore. I encourage it with my child, and she can drive me completely batty with all the questions. But you know what? We're missing that now, and if we don't have that, we're doomed. You need to question. And you're also right, JJ, about the college professors. I mean, they discourage questions. They plow through it as fast as they can, get through the material so they can get off to whatever their main goal is in research. It's not about learning. And I had that discussion with one of my professors. It wasn't about learning. It was about trying to cram through as many people as they could
Yeah, and trying to cram their personal agendas into your head.
Exactly. And it's total BS. Our education system is broken. And why are we putting college kids into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt? I mean, this is the biggest scam on the planet. Education should be free, and with the Internet, it can be. We have Ivy League universities that have their entire courseware online. And you could be getting an education from top-notch educators and have your choice of 10 of them for free. It's not about the test. It's about the passion to learn. And it's a complete scam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I've started to notice with the people that I get...
they only teach a few things. It's the same. Every school... I mean, come on, man. Every school in America, if it's one subject, they all teach the same freaking thing. There's no variety. There's all schools. Curriculum is handed down from the government to all schools.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, with these universities, I mean, you guys bring up a really good point, because a lot of these kids that I get into debates with that are fresh out of college, their heads are even more screwed up than somebody just out of high school.
Absolutely, they're completely brainwashed.
Absolutely, it's really like I'm so disappointed in like the immense amount of excitement and knowledge in some of these people, but they're just totally misled down the wrong path.
Yeah, and they couldn't survive. They couldn't find their ass without a GPS. I say both hands, but they couldn't. They couldn't find their ass with both hands. They need a GPS to get to the bathroom. I mean, these are people, that have just spent years being educated, and they come out so, if you could just keep feeding them, iPads and iPod and I like to call them iSuppositories and iPons. If you keep feeding them new iPons and trinkets all their life, they'll continue to think they've been successful, and that if you have less than 5 iPods, an iPad for each day of the week, that you aren't successful. And it goes the same way to the inner city and to the minorities. A black guy, his vision of being a successful person is exactly what he sees as a big, fat, rich, white dude. He doesn't see, a successful black man as a guy maybe that helps in his community, that has risen above, that realizes that money is just a joke. It's just a scam. Money is another form of slavery, and he helps his community, and he helps the boys in his community become men who understand these kind of things. To me, that would be, the sort of rich or the sort of, man I would look up to. I wouldn't think of success as, exactly what they also are taught to hate. Big, fat, rich, white dudes at the same time, but they won't feel like they're successful unless they got a Cadillac and and all the same things that a big, fat, rich, white dude has. Because they've been told that. Yeah. Women didn't know that that their rights were being, that they needed to be freed from the kitchen until they were told that,
Yeah, and most of the throughout history, most of the people who were oppressed like that didn't even realize that they were oppressed, and then they were totally cool with it.
Yeah, and then they were told,
Yeah, exactly.
And we're supposed to rely on this system that we're been born into. I don't trust it. I don't want to use it. And, I don't feel like I have to. I understand there's risks in life, and if I go and buck against the system, there's a risk that you're either going to have to be willing to take it, or you're going to have to watch life, and you're going to have to watch things through the Venetian blinds in your living room. You're going to be one of those, I'm glad that didn't happen to me. But that's not my life, man.
Well, yeah, and I mean that I'll have to point back to the education system again, because that is that conformity that's bred into us. You know what I'm saying? Don't break from the mold. Don't buck the system. Don't ask questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk. Well, all right, we got a few minutes before I have one break, and that's at 12:30. I'd like to meander on over to natural law and universal morality. These are some of the things that I know that you might have an interest in. I actually just reading some of the stuff that you've written, and I am intrigued.
Well, that's a lot of this, really what kind of set all of these ideas into my head, at least as far as non-aggression and voluntarism, because, I mean, these are all ideas that I'm still working through myself, and one of the things that I found was this issue with morality, and everybody has this perception of morality has to come from an authority, and the authority is allowed to break that code, and that just seems like a total system of nihilism, pretty much, where people could just make up the rules as they go, as we were talking about earlier. And if we're all created equal, then why don't we all have to abide by the same rules? You know what I'm saying? And
testify.
What was that?
I said, amen, brother, testify.
Exactly. I mean, if we have different rules for different people, I think that's a recipe for disaster. And look at what we have right now. We have this all-powerful criminal organization because we've let them get away with it just because their own rules say that they can do it. And that's really the fundamental issue here, because when you apply the same rules to them that is applied to yourself, you realize that everything they're doing is a violation of your rights and everybody else's
What's
rights.
wrong with you deciding what's moral instead of being told what's moral? We have to be told that we have the moral authority to bomb other countries. Why can't I decide what I feel is moral or not?
Well, yeah, I mean...
Am I not to be trusted? Most people, most people could never even... Here's half the problem. It's because we've been convinced that there's an authority. We've been convinced that there are experts. And most people sitting in their living room could never imagine that they themselves could spend a few hours a day for a few weeks and then actually go and debate a person who has the title of, expert, or the title of authority, or I am with the government, and I'm here to tell you, man, 7th grade, dude. I made it through 7th grade. I never made it to 8th grade. And I could sit and debate almost any topic with almost any authority and do it logically without breaking down to insults and calling them names, unlike most of the experts or authorities, because I just would not agree with them. And once they realize that you see through it, then they will always and ever break down to insults and calling you a cook. Oh, and then next thing you know, I'll be a truther. So, people just have to have confidence in themselves that we are individuals. It doesn't matter where you are. The truth is the truth, and reality really is reality, and it's contingent upon the beholder. You can see it, you can go out and see beauty, and you can see the truth. That you don't have to take the word of somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it all comes down to the fact that, like, we all want to live in peace. You know what I'm saying? We all think that it's bad to hurt people. We all think that it's bad to take people's stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I really think that is all we need. Who cares what somebody else smokes or what somebody else does in their bedroom? I mean, that's aesthetics. That is not a moral situation, and that's what these people in authority have told us. They have told us that what you do in your bedroom is morality, and what you put into your body, that's morality. But there's no emphasis on your interactions with other people or organizations' interactions with other people, if that makes any sense. So they like to focus so much on people's personal decisions that don't affect anybody else, instead of just saying, hey, violence is bad, let's not do the violence thing.
Yeah, it's the whole idea of violence and punishment. I mean, as a species, as a race, and we all are one race, we're all one species. There's not a bunch of different races running around.
I think that that's something they created to divide us so they can conquer us. I really honestly believe.
I mean, there certainly are lots of cultural differences and regional differences, that have happened over the course of time, but essentially, on a genetic level, we're 99, we're identical, really, except for our facial features and the colors of our skin and things like that. We're identical on the inside. You can't tell us apart.
Oh, yeah. I mean, our cultures are definitely unique, and that's not a bad thing.
No, that's awesome.
But it's exploited as a bad thing by, say if some ruler A wants to take resources from ruler B, all he has to do is, if the people are a little bit different...
Hey, we're back live, the Jim Freeland Show here at URL Broadcast Network. You can email me personally at truthrising@gmail.com. My guest today, JG Vibes. Hey, what's your email address, JG?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What's your email address?
Oh, it's jgvibes@aotmr.com.
AOTMR.com. There you have it, folks. Hey, you and I both expressed a point during the break that I'm sure people understand is my view on things. It's the underground. If we're going to get anywhere, it has to be done underground at the grassroots level. And one of the ways that I do it, one of the things that I'm involved with is the underground sound, protest music type thing, and trying to, shape or influence some of my own local music here, which I was sort of hit and miss. I've had a little bit of luck, but I definitely believe that we need to support our local underground artists, whether they're musicians, whether they write poems, whether they do art, whether they even do murals. There's so much underground art that is racially, that is toned or tuned in to the awareness. And I know you agree, right?
Absolutely. I'm definitely on the same page there. I think that we have in our culture a lot of the ideas that people carry with them come from this propaganda that's on TV, that's in their favorite music, and a lot of the mainstream stuff. So what I like to do in a lot of cases is I like to see the weapons that are being used against us, and I like to throw them weapons right back at the system. So if I kind of like to say that art and propaganda are two sides of the same coin. They're both a creation, but art is
all about who's
creation.
Controlling it. You're right.
Yeah, exactly. Art is a creation that would uplift somebody's soul and inspire them, while propaganda is a creation that does the exact opposite. So if there's all this trash music out there that's lowering people's level of consciousness, then everybody who is involved in music and cares about this kind of stuff really has a perfect tool at their fingertips to raise the level of consciousness in their community, even if it's an underground music community. I mean, I work primarily in the rave scene because that's where what my company deals with. But I'm very into all other types of music, metal, rock, alternative, whatever. But it kind of started for me as I needed to put together these shows. I needed to have names and themes, and some of my friends said, "Man, you're really into this philosophy stuff. Why don't you, put some stuff together?" And so, tax day came around, and I did an end the Fed party that was free, and I've done a party called American Psycho, which had a bunch of different corporate logos to spell out American and stuff like that. So I try to put underhand stuff because people don't want to go out and read a book all the time,
No,
people. So you got to hook them when they think they're being entertained. You know what I mean? And that's what the system does.
And encourage them.
Do that.
Because music, poetry, art, these are ways that you can articulate ideas very, very precisely. You can articulate, you know, your very fiber, your core, and you can do it very precisely using art, man. And I just really encourage it, man, for people to use their inside, the inside of themselves, their core, their souls, to do whatever it is that they can do, whatever they think they can do. And it doesn't have to always be, you know, jumping up on a podium or carrying a sign. It's anything, whatever you feel like, you know, you can really use to articulate your feelings is the right thing to do, man. And art is a great way, whether it be music, you know, visual art, auditory, audio art, whatever, you name it.
Yeah, I mean, even throughout history, you know, during way back, before there was even electricity, there were people who wrote books that seemed to be about one thing, but they had so many deeper meanings and underhanded things against the establishment. And in those days, it was so impossible and so dangerous to speak out that that's how people had to do their activism a lot of times, is through art. That was the only option that they had available to them. And I think today we have such a more amazing ability to, you know, reach people with them.
Absolutely, brother, because you can not only articulate, but you can celebrate, because there ain't nothing like clapping your hands and stomping your feet, you know what I'm saying, and being happy with people, with other people, like sharing the experience of humanity and life with others. I mean, we lose sight of that, and I try not to, but I find myself doing the very same thing sometimes. But it's not,
yeah, I mean,
you should not be ashamed to celebrate either.
No, not at all. And I think that's kind of what makes people feel this stuff in their soul. And you know, it's less of a downer to kind of get it through the music, and it's more of a thing that sinks into you. I remember when I started doing this research, you know, it was 1 week, like, you know, those times in your life where those transitional times when you start to come across these ideas and it seems like all this information coming at you at once. Well, I mean, I experienced that, and I would sit back and listen to, like, Bob Marley or something like that, and I'm like, wow, like, you know, they create a world of confusion to force on us the devil's solution. Like, what is this dude talking? He's talking about what I'm reading about. And then, like, I'd put on, like, some newer, like, hip-hop or something, like Immortal Technique or Payday Monsanto, and that stuff, like, is in your face.
Yeah, it blows you away, man. And I love it.
So,
love that stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like, all I listen to these days. I mean, I listen to some instrumental stuff. Oh, of course, I listen to podcasts all day long, but when I listen to music, like, it is
my
that,
friends.
Exactly. It's somebody who's on something, somebody who's talking about something, you know? I mean, there's too many.
And they're not talking about slinging boulders or, you know, scoring with 3 chicks in the bathroom at the club or whatever, man. They're talking about things with substance, excuse me. Things that can sustain your soul, things like, you know, being socially active and aware of the things that are going around with you, man. I love this. Is a great interview, dude. Thanks for coming on, man.
I appreciate it too, man. We're definitely on the same page as far as that's concerned. And I mean, this is what started me on my path was music and art and I realized once I got, it was really crazy. Once I started coming across this information and listening back to the music that I've listened to my whole life, I was like, wow, these artists were trying to speak to me for years, and I didn't even get the message until now. Like, I was just like, I just thought it was a song. I just thought it was a show. I just thought it was a movie. And no, these people that created this stuff worked really, really hard to send a message.
Yeah.
And when you have your receptors open, you get them. You can spot the messages like that. But I just think that it's a really underlooked tool in our movement. A lot of people might get into activism and say, oh, that's just entertainment, that's just music, I don't have time for that. And, hey, that might be a really good tool for your activism.
Well, if nothing else, it's planting seeds, man, because young people really, the arts grabs them, because it isn't authoritarian, if you do it right, and it is, and they can celebrate, and they can stomp their heels and snap their fingers. And if you've got the right message, man, if you've got the message to freedom, if you've got the message of, of evolution, of social, socially aware issues, that, then that really is a great way to, to articulate your own thoughts and feelings. And, people often say, well, be the change you want to be. Well, that really is, one way. But the thing of it is you really have to change, just to be the change. You have to, you have to be willing to be what you want to see. If I want to be a peaceful person, then I feel like I have the right to expect or to ask or to hope for peace or, something along that line. Maybe not, that may not be quite the explanation I was looking for, but.
Well, yeah, it comes down to setting a good example for people is basically what you're saying.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to change. A lot of people want to see change, but they're afraid to be different than they are. They're afraid to lose what they have. They're afraid for things to change.
Oh, yeah. I talk to a lot of people that are like, dude, I'm with you on this and I'm with you on that, but I would never put my neck out like you are. And like, a lot of times I don't even know what to say to those people, dude, and I just kind of move on to the next one and just let them find in their own time because, I've tended to, like, just move on. I'm not totally cut people out of my life if they disagree with me or anything, but,
right.
If somebody isn't getting it, you gotta let them get it in their own time. And
right, and there's no reason to force them into being your enemy, so we're just not going to agree on this, but that's not going to fault, that's not going to alter your course at all. Just turning somebody else into another enemy does more harm than just, well, okay, then I'll just move along. We can still be friends. We just won't talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I may be branching off into another topic here,
Good,
but I do think that it's important for our movement. I hate to put it that way, but anybody who cares about changing the world for the better to really, really think about our approach and how we handle people who disagree with us and how we handle debates, because we don't want to be like the Republicrats in the political sphere, how they just shove a bunch of ideas down one another's throats without actually thinking about what the other person said,
Yeah,
and I think in a lot of ways our community is way ahead of that, but I think that we still have a long way to go. Because like I said earlier about throwing the establishment's tactics right back at them, one thing that they use to quite a good effect in enslaving us is public relations, as you said, or somebody said earlier about Edward Bernays and that whole monster that he created. Well, public relations is a bad thing when they use it, but we can use public relations too. We can make our ideas sound more palatable to the average person, and we can use words to make their system seem like what it really is, because they use all this newspeak to hide it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
they develop all these words, and they have meetings about how to better present this idea, and I really think that we need to start doing that.
Yeah,
we need to start making up words. We need to create our own freaking dictionary. We got Wikipedia, even though that's edited every hour by a bunch of FBI sock puppets. We still have all these places on the internet where we can create our own words. We can make our own definitions, and we need to, because their arsenal of words is a lot bigger than ours, and they spend a lot more time on public relations, and I think that we're at a disadvantage because we don't focus on that as much.
Yeah,
a lot of people
I think if it
Go
comes
ahead.
from a place of love and compassion, see, this is where I lose a lot of people right here, is because I talk about love and compassion and empathy as my driving motivators in life now. And, you know, a lot of people just aren't on board with that. And if you know me, if you ever met me, I am not one of those flowery, you know, barefoot, hacky sack, everything's bad. But man, you know, I come from a place where I feel like, you know, it's not propaganda if it's coming from love. You know, if you're using it, the public relations or whatever, you know, you're not using it to force your opinion to.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean by saying us use public relations. I'm just saying us think about the sound that our voice is having on someone else's ears. And I'm coming from the same perspective as you are. Is, you know, be loving with people, be kind with people, be cool with people, and be understanding. Don't try to shove ideas.
There's nothing worse than a Jehovah's Witness truther coming at you with a bullhorn. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. That turns people off, and they don't even listen. You want people to listen. You don't want people to shut off. And so many of us that care and we're motivated to talk to other people about it, we get in these conversations where people just shut off. And that's one of our biggest obstacles. We need to find out how to overcome that. And I think a big part of it is, like you just said, we need to approach this from a more understanding and caring kind of viewpoint.
Yeah, I found if you can show somebody that you care about them, then you know that's a lot of the rest of it is gravy. If you can show them, prove to them, or whatever, however you want to put it, but if you can show a person that you really do care about them, and that this is something that you're passionate about, and it's coming from concern, it's coming from, you know, empathy and love, then they're a lot more apt and they're a lot more receptive. They're a lot more not moldable or even suggestible or anything, but they're a lot more apt to give you the time to, first of all, let you finish what you're, you know, trying to articulate to begin with, and two, that they may not think just automatically, I'm going to start insulting this guy. Maybe I'll look into what he's saying, or maybe, you know, maybe what he's saying really does make sense. You know, why do we need? We've been force-fed. We've been told all our life that we need to be told what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think another thing that you kind of hinted at a little bit was we can't expect to completely change somebody's mind in one conversation. You know what I'm saying? If we're talking to somebody and be like, all right, you know, you can feel how you want to feel, but this is where I'm coming from. This is some of the research that has really brought my perspective to where it is. And, you know, why don't you take some of this research home with you, you know, see how you feel about it, and then we'll have a conversation. I think that that's a good approach as well.
Yeah.
But like I said, that this is one of the conversation that we're having right now. I think a lot more people in our movement need to be having, because, you know, good ideas come out of this kind of stuff, and how we approach these topics in debates and just conversations with our family and friends is vital to the spread of these ideas. We don't want to come across like Jehovah's Witnesses. That was a perfect analogy there.
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy where when you walk up to the, you know, to the step, or you come up, when you show up, everybody's like, oh, jeez. Oh,
dude,
no,
I was like that for a little bit. I admit. I was too, but I've learned that didn't work. You know what I'm saying?
I've evolved. I mean, I've done so much. I am completely and utterly grateful to, you know, this community that I'm involved with, because I've become 10, you know, just quitting drinking and becoming 10 times the father and 10 times the husband I was. I've become 10 times the man, the human, the 10 times the, you know, the entity that I was. And I'm blown away by some of the, you know, the generosity and some of the kindness that I found around the country through this community.
Yeah, dude, totally, man. Good for you. And I've been on kind of a similar path myself. I mean, I've definitely come from some really crazy ideas, and just by discovering what freedom is all about and having more faith in myself and more faith in humanity, I really was able to pull myself out of the gutter. And I've talked to so many people who have had that same kind of situation.
Amen, man. Preaching to the choir here, dude. I want people to like me and want me around, not, you know, not call me and dread that I'm coming over. And hey, you know, to be sure, some people don't want to hear what you're talking about. But if you care about them, you're not going to just alienate them and then all of a sudden stop caring about them. You know, you're going to have to learn how to make concessions in life. Life is just, after all, a series of conflicting interests, one after the other. And if you're always afraid to take the short end of the stick, if the thought of humility threatens you or makes you feel less than, man, I'm sorry, but humility is what has kept me, you know, the man I am. I'm just a humble person, you know, really, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of us are unfortunately brought up to think that that's not cool. That's not, you know, that's not attractive behavior. That's something that you know, sissies or geeks would do and stuff. And I mean, that's totally not the truth. I mean, that's how healthy people operate, and that's how people have healthy relationships.
Yeah.
So I think that your perspective is definitely on point with my whole deal, man, and I definitely appreciate to hear that.
Yeah, man. Hey, what's the next event you're going to be involved with?
Well, right now, as far as the events go, I had some stuff going on in the summer, but you know, it's kind of slowed down as far as the speaking stuff is concerned now. Right. But I'm going to be starting my shows up again in the winter. I'm going to be doing a reunion tour. And actually, this weekend, I'm going to help set up for the Free Your Mind Conference fundraiser that they're having in Philadelphia. Mark Tassio's setting up.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I'm just going to help him out. I don't even know what I'm doing, if I'm helping with sound or whatever or anything like that.
Hey, brother, the first time I went down to help Poker Face and them guys with Freedom Palooza, I parked cars.
Nice. Yeah,
hey,
yeah.
Man, anything you can freaking do, man.
Yeah, I mean, anywhere I can help in. When somebody's doing something within driving distance from me, I'm totally down to help, you know. So, but yeah, I just started with the show on UCY TV, Voluntary Hippie Radio. So
definitely worth checking out.
My podcast before would be whenever I got an interview, and I kind of just repost it as a podcast. But now with the show, I actually have to be on point and actually get one out every week. Right. So that's kind of been where a lot of my focus has been recently.
Oh, well, cool. And let's plug your website. Let's get people going there. AOTMR.com. That's AOTMR.com. You can find JG Vibes there. Links to his book, Alchemy of the Modern Day Renaissance. Definitely. I don't have it. I was going to say definitely worth reading, but
at the website you can check out a table of contents, and it's got like all 87 chapters, and it's all, you know, half of it's the negative stuff, the Monsanto, the fluoride, the banking, and then the other half is the positive stuff, the art, the internet, the future, the spirituality, the psychedelics, the marijuana, all that's in there.
Awesome. A man after my own heart. Ricky Simpson's a friend of mine. I actually have quite a few friends that are very, very passionate. Right, actually down near you in the area, I got a friend, Sean House. Yeah, he actually makes hemp pretzels and other products, and he employs locals and local farmers and local bakeries, and you know, it's just a beautiful culture and a beautiful community to be part of. Hey, JG, thank you for coming on the show today. This has been the Jim Freeland Show at Oracle Broadcasting. I'll see everybody tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed the show.
people. We're good people. We're God-fearing people. We're being led by leaders who are godly, who are lawless. All right? Don't let them fool you into thinking you're lawless and you don't have to care. They can call it whatever they want, but they can't make it hate.
I'd rather die than be a slave to thee. Don't treat me this way. I'd rather die than be your slave. I will survive. And you feel my rage. It's not a question of being brave. I'd rather die than be your slave.
Too many people in America fear their government, and the government is being run by too many powerful agencies like the IRS and others. I think it's time that people take the country back through their representative government.
Hey, Mr. Politician, living on that hill, living in that life of luxury on we the people's bill. Don't have a clue how the other half lives, and that is a shame. It's time to stop the tyranny. You keep pushing through your bills, calling for revolution, calling for it now. It's time to save our Constitution while we still got the guns in our hands. And there's a farmer who's starving on their land. The rancher tries to feed his cattle and sheep on we the people's land. Try and live as a free man. You'll find it is illegal anymore. Time to stop these thugs from stealing what's been got handed down. Calling for a revolution, calling for it now. It's time to save our Constitution while we still got the guns in our hands. Now is the time to turn back the clock of a tyranny. For if we don't, then who will do it for ourselves? And how about our children? What kind of future will we leave them? And if we won't, we'll wake up slaves on the global